Welcome back to the channel. It's Earth Star Tarot. We have a name now. And today we are looking at messages from your ancestral line, from the line of your ancestors, from deep, deep, deep down that ancestral line. So I'm thinking back to pre-Egyptian times, pre-civilization, or maybe the beginnings of myth and civilization that we know, or even further back, further, deeper down. What are the messages coming to you from your ancestral line, way back? Let's see. I think I still want to shuffle a little more here and see if anything pops out. This is the White Light Oracle deck of Alana Fairchild. Probably gotten the idea that I'm pretty into Alana Fairchild. And this deck is not one to trifle with. It goes for the jugular. We've already got some beautiful cards here. Ooh, I've never pulled that one before. That's so interesting. I always find it fascinating how, when reading for others, one pulls cards that don't come up for oneself. There's definitely some other people's energies. Pile 3. And so we're going to add in these little bits of, I'm going to put the moss. This is a little piece of dried moss from the forest near where I live. This is a tiny piece of coral that can go with the Garuda Suparna. And then with Lassia Parvati, we're going to put a key. And so you can feel into the energies of these 3 piles, pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. And tune into your ancestors, maybe tune into your ancestral line, whatever that means to you or looks like for you, and feel into which of these piles is calling you. Might be more than one. Feel into what's right for you, and we'll see you in your reading. Hi, pile 1. So we've got Lassia of Parvati. I'm just going to show you this cool key. It's real. It's not. I got once got a bag of, keys that were intended to look like old keys that were made out of plastic. I actually feel quite silly about that now, but in any event, this one has been with me since childhood. I'm not sure exactly where it came from, except that it was once used to open doors, I presume, in my family. And then we've got Lassia of Parvati. Give you a closer look at that lovely card. We'll put her over here, make some room. Just make sure that she's straight, and that becomes my orientation. Okay. So first we'll look into Lassia of Parvati, and I am reading from the White Light Oracle Guidebook for this, as I feel like my ability to paraphrase Alana Fairchild would be less powerful than letting Alana Fairchild speak through my voice right now. Okay, Lassia of Parvati. There is a gentler way to proceed and obtain the same or even greater effect. Tame the wild and frenzied workings of the mind by grounding yourself with beauty, pleasure, and grace. Violence and its negative effects shall be overcome and healed through feminine gentleness and inner spiritual strength. This oracle is a sign of great future happiness. Parvati is the universal mother in her gentle aspect. Although, as with all mothers, her fierce side will emerge if it's needed to protect her children. She is beautiful and benevolent and evokes the qualities of love, connection, creativity, and devotion. To a higher purpose. The divine goddess has many names, and Parvati is also known as Jagatambe, the mother of the universe. Her son is Ganesha, the elephant-headed deity who fosters success in all new ventures, protection from obstacles, and is of particular benefit to those who feel drawn to write. Parvati is mother to all, and her presence in a reading augurs success on every level. With Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, love, and spiritual enlightenment, and Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom, music, and creativity, Parvati is Tridevi, the sacred triune of feminine nature, or triple goddess of Hinduism. Parvati is the divine archetype of the vital, competent, creative, and loving woman. When her oracle appears, there is an opportunity to heal one's mother wounds and one's relationship with the feminine more generally. She helps heal wounded hearts and teaches us how to belong to ourselves, just as we are, rather than abandoning ourselves to please others. As Tridevi, when you connect with Parvati, you also connect with Lakshmi and Saraswati, as all three are one. So this oracle also brings comfort for matters to do with material prosperity, love relationships, expressing your voice, and fulfilling your higher purpose. Parvati is the consort and wife of the wild god Shiva. He loves to meditate and has a fierce temper when distracted from his spiritual practice. Don't we all, don't we all? Wrathful as he can be, he is a protector deity and the destroyer of evil. Parvati stimulates her husband's passion through her skillful practice of yoga. He is roused from meditation by the powerful energy she generates, and he performs his fierce cosmic dance, Tandava, which brings an end to that which needs to be annihilated so new life can emerge. The vigor of Shiva's dance in our lives can be intense. Parvati's dance, Lasya, provides balance and calming grace when the soul needs gentleness and comfort. Parvati does her dance of happiness, leading us along our path without requiring us to continually push ourselves beyond our limits. Her wisdom protects us from breakdown, guiding us into breakthrough. Her oracle indicates that, even though we may grow through intense challenges, there is a calming influence which can help us if we are willing to allow for it and be kind to ourselves. When Parvati knows that a more dramatic intervention is the only way to conquer a particular evil in our lives, she will manifest as the ferocious goddess Kali. One story holds that Kali was so intent on destruction that the fate of the world hung in the balance, so her husband, Shiva, appeared before her as a crying babe, which instantly evoked her maternal instincts and calmed her back into a state as Parvati. We can trust that the Divine Mother loves us and responds to what is needed, but also knows how to get things done without being more heavy-handed than necessary. She is genuinely moved by our suffering and will manifest in whatever forms are needed to heal. Her oracle asks you to invoke her and trust what transpires is for your healing and spiritual fulfillment. Give up the notion that the deepest issues require the most difficult path to heal. Let her Lasya dance of happiness and grace unveil a gentler and more loving way. And as with all of these decks, there is a healing process, which you can refer to if you have this deck. Okay, we're going to pull some tarot cards. So we'll continue with our question of what message does your ancestral line want you to hear right now? What message is important for you coming down through your ancestral line? You can tune into your ancestors as we pull our cards. As I shuffle. These cards are not waiting for a shuffle. You know exactly what they want to say to you. So just be alert to messages that maybe go beyond what the cards say, what I say, and tune into your own intuition, because you are most connected to your ancestors. Room for one more here, I think. That one seemed like it wanted to come out, so here we go. So we've got the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups is, I've seen one interpretation as greed. That came up in the first reading we did here. my interpretation, my understanding is that this is someone who has indulged and has sort of gone deeply into those cups, elements of feelings, intuition, emotions, and who has just simply had enough. They need a break. Emotions, you know, we refer to ourselves as drowning in emotions sometimes, and sometimes we just need to, you can see he's on a little bit of higher ground, sort of up from the water, and he's grounding next to a tree, and he's saying no thank you to that last cup. And so this is someone turning down opportunities because they feel like it's not right for them in this moment. And so perhaps there's a situation in your life where you feel like you've got opportunities, but you're not, for some reason you don't want to take advantage of them. And there might be a feeling of, you know, a firm no. It might take strength to get that no across. There might be strength in even refusing that last cup. It might be something that you want to accept but feel you should not. The strength card speaks to me of, you know, this person is quite calm and is able to, there's no fear of taming this lion, and the lion is, you know, almost appears, I mean, I think the idea is that she's got control of the lion, she's controlled the beast within, in sort of a temperate way, but it looks to me like she's being licked by the lion, so it almost seems as though this lion is her pet, and that she's been able to extract from it what is useful, namely strength. So she's demonstrating strength in taming the lion, but she's also come into a calm, gentle relationship with it. So you might say that she's dancing with Parvati in that sense. So there might be something about, you know, in order to access your strength right now, in order to find what your convictions are and be firm in sticking to them, that perhaps the key to that is to undertake things in a gentle way. So, you know, instead of a firm sort of arms crossed no, maybe there's a gentler path, a sort of, you know, a more I want to say temperate. I keep coming back to temperance. Perhaps a more harmonious way of dancing away from whatever whatever's being offered here. Maybe there's a gentle dance that can be undertaken in order to communicate that no. We've got the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups is beginning energy, and it's the beginning of, it could be the beginning of accessing emotions, intuition, intuitive knowledge. It could also mean the beginning of a sort of like the precursors for a love relationship, I would say. If the Two of Cups is the actual beginning of meeting someone and engaging in that interaction, then the Ace of Cups would be what lays the groundwork for it. So it's sort of the self-work, I would say, that comes before a connection with another is possible. This little plus sign here is the Cross of Matter. So we've got a bird, an element of the air, putting earth into a cup of water, and it's looks like water is flowing out of the cup rather than in some way going into the cup. So, you know, it's the beginning of putting energy out there, I would say, and beginning to, it's just a really lovely energy of things becoming easeful, let's say. And then over here we've got the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords would be someone who, just gonna pause here, look at blathered on a little. The Ace of Cups can mean joy, contentment, abundance, fertility, all things that one associates with the Suit of Cups. So if, perhaps at this stage of the process, this person's had a little too much of that energy. By this point, they're, perhaps this is you and you're ready to engage again with those emotions. So you've come out of setting those boundaries, and that leads back to contentment or joy. With the Page of Swords, we've got the qualities we'd associate with swords being discernment, rationality, logic, the mind, protection, authority, and the page can indicate energies of perhaps secrets or spying, ascertaining what's really going on, sort of getting to the truth of things, and doing so with a very with the ability to sort of cut through what does not serve, what is not truthful. And then we've got the Four of Pentacles. So the Four of Pentacles suggests that there's been, some wealth amassed, and perhaps a little bit of attachment to that wealth, a bit of protection, a little bit of protection energy, sort of being overprotective of ensuring that that wealth continues to amass, or that it stays with oneself or one's in-group, one's family. And so with the Lasya of Parvati, I would say you're being called here to set your boundaries, recognize the return of joy, and then, still exercise discernment and be aware of whatever might be occurring beneath the surface, and just be mindful of perhaps not becoming too attached to, if this one's attached, this kind of circles back to this energy. Sometimes we can have too much. They're both fours. So, if this is clinging to what one has, this would be the energy that sort of follows from that clinging. And so then we're back to setting the boundaries, and the cycle begins again. The dance. Let's get some clarifier cards for the next row here. Can you see that fully? I think we can. Well, those are two intriguing cards to have come out together. Okay, over here we've got the Three of Swords. Three swords piercing the heart with some rain clouds pouring down is, as you might imagine, it's energies of heartbreak, loss, betrayal, So it's possible that when this fourth cup is offered, the refusal of the fourth cup has to do with some kind of prior heartbreak, or some kind of, perhaps this person is grieving, perhaps there's a little bit of grieving that's leading to not wanting to accept, what should be joy in this scenario, but this person is, they've enjoyed those 3 cups and they've ended up with these 3 swords through the heart, it would seem to me. So when the fourth cup comes, they're saying no more, and setting those boundaries. And so that, that feeling is probably what creates the strength. And I'm finding it quite interesting to look at the diagonals in these readings. So, this scenario, the situation, seems like what would directly lead to refusing that fourth cup and having the strength to just set those boundaries and recalibrate and, say that this is not for me, this is not a good situation. And once that strength once you've come into balance with your strength and you've engaged it and refused that fourth cup, then we're over here to the sun energies of returning to grace, ease, happiness, contentment, celebration. Just see if I've missed anything. The sun can be the satiation of ego. So if the sun represents where we shine, what gives us pleasure, this card is suggesting that we will shine, that we will have pleasure, that we will achieve what we want or receive what we want, and be joyful because of it. And so perhaps, that sort of feeling of being in the sunshine is what's leading over to this new contentment, the beginning of sort of a new cycle with the cups energy. And then down here we've got judgment, and judgment can refer to, essentially this is an angel calling people up from one phase into the next after, what was thought to be a final ending turns into a new beginning. And so, maybe this final ending here is turning into a new beginning after those boundaries are set. And so then we've got the Page of Swords, sort of ascertaining whether I'm feeling like this is a relationship, getting a strong feeling of some sort of relationship involving perhaps a betrayal or a feeling of betrayal, not necessarily actual betrayal, but just feeling hurt, and, and then a setting of boundaries that leads to new joy and a new cycle beginning, but with a note of caution, with the exercising discernment, getting at the truth of things. And we're going from the Page of Swords down to the Page of Wands, so if you exercise those Page of Swords energies of getting at the truth, then that leads directly into the Page of the Wands suit, and the Wands is the suit of action, passion. In this scenario, this young man is delivering a message. He might bring a message with him. He is a faithful lover. Rider-Waite has a dark young man, and I would say extrapolate from that to whatever gender and shades of skin are your preference in life. He could be an envoy or a postman, so some kind of message bearer. And like all of the wands court cards, he can represent a dangerous enemy if, if not handled properly. And so again, anytime there's a question of how to handle things, I think we look back to the Lasya of Parvati, the gentleness, the gentle dance. And so having discerned what the truth is, and having taken steps into the more fiery love, sort of sexual energies, let's say, of the Page of Wands, these energies could be also just, drive, passion. It could be passion for a project. It could be passion for a situation, enthusiasm, saying yes to life. And perhaps that passion is what leads us over here to sort of attachment to those Four Pentacles, attachment to what we have, what we want to pass on to those we love even. And so, one would question whether we need all four of these pentacles. Maybe we do. Maybe we want to hold them close. Maybe this was so good that we want to hang on tight to it. But if we do, then it always comes down to the Wheel of Fortune. It always comes around to the Wheel of Fortune. The wheel turns, and there might be a shift. There might, if this is holding on to wealth or fecundity, and then the wheel turns, then those coins might fall away, and we might find ourselves back, in a situation like this or some other situation, sort of without that which we were trying to hang on to. And so there might be a gentle dance with oneself that needs to happen in this part of the reading. And in all things, be guided by the Lasya of Parvati and choose the path of heart and the gentle dance. I hope that serves. This is what I see is the message from your ancestors going deep, deep down, and what they want you to know about your path in this moment. And I hope that resonates with some of you. If so, please do leave a comment, put a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for being here. Bye. Hi, Pile 2. Welcome to your reading. We've got Garuda Suparna here. We'll start with looking into the description of Garuda Suparna, which I recall as being quite lovely. Cultivate confidence in yourself. You have the inner spiritual power to deal wisely and effectively with any situation. Don't allow anyone to take advantage of your kind nature. Reflect upon what action feels best for you to take, and then follow through with decisiveness. Do not allow negativity to get a grip in your life. Positive energy and outcomes are indicated. Garuda is the mystical king of the birds, a mighty eagle-like divine creature celebrated in the spiritual traditions of the East. In Sanskrit, Suparna means to have powerful wings and fly well. This has spiritual significance, as Garuda can cover great distances and reach tremendous heights. Garuda's earthly counterpart, the eagle, is said to use the powerful winds of a storm to fly above it, rather than get caught within it. The eagle spirit is a wisdom teacher, one who advises how to utilize the storms of ego to fuel your capacity to rise spiritually, to face problems head-on and use them to heal and grow. Eagle seeks higher sanctuary, where negativities can be dealt with before they cause further problems. Very wise lesson, that. Another Sanskrit word, accorded to Garuda, is Vishari, which essentially means conqueror of poisons. Garuda Suparna augurs a time when you will need to rise above the pettiness of ego and ensure you nip negativities in the bud, lest they become powerful enough to cause havoc in your heart. You don't need to become ensnared within the drama of ego. Garuda fights on the side of light and is a bringer of powerful protection and hope, and is a symbol of rebirth. He is a capable warrior. His dark side can be seen in that he is merciless. In Buddhism, he is known as the dignity of wisdom. Sometimes our compassion can outweigh our wisdom. Our empathy allows troublesome behaviors or circumstances to fester and develop into far greater problems later on. If we had listened to our wisdom, we would have cut them off at the root. But while it can be harder to do so later, it is not impossible, and it is Garuda who teaches us to be unyielding when that is what wisdom calls for. Ego socializes with its own kind. Therefore, an aspect of its medicine is to seek those who resonate at a similar spiritual frequency and are committed to a higher path. Such kindred spirits will not necessarily have the same belief systems. They may seem quite different to you in many ways. Yet, if someone has a commitment to honoring the hearts of all beings, they are likely to be good company for your soul. Garuda Eagle Medicine empowers us to discern the real quality of our relationships. The company you keep can have a profound effect. You have the spiritual right and responsibility to choose which company you keep. You don't need to judge, for everyone is taking their own journey and working to heal their karma. But you do need to discern. Garuda has the mystical power to grow or shrink, depending on what is needed to accomplish his heroic tasks. By becoming large enough to block the sun and cause thunderstorms just by flapping his wings, to becoming small enough to hide in a crevice to craftily avoid capture, Garuda teaches us when to step up and shine bright and bold, and when to fly under the proverbial radar. The Oracle of Garuda Suparna is a talisman of divine protection and soul-smart strategy. Garuda is a wild spirit, free and instinctive. His is the wisdom and empowerment needed to rise above negativity, not from avoidance, but from a place of wisdom and clarity. This oracle guides you to rely on your instincts and be true to your heart. In doing so, you may not always look like a perfect person from the outside, but you are proceeding in resonance with your own heart wisdom. And as always with these decks, there is a practice to follow. If you have the deck, you can turn to number 42, Garuda Suparna, and do that practice now. And so Pile 2, we are looking at what your ancestors, your ancestral line wants you to become aware of right now. What messages do they want to communicate to you at this time? Garuda Suparna energies are some of my favorite in this deck. I really love the idea of flying above the winds of a storm, using the winds of a storm to fly above it instead of getting caught within it. And then the message of ensuring that we don't let our empathy to ensnare us into a situation that wisdom would have told us to avoid. You can see examples of that in pop culture, recent pop culture, I would say. And it's a powerful lesson for anyone who walks a spiritual path. We tend to value empathy and accord it to people almost uncritically, I want to say. I mean, I think it's important to value compassion almost above all else, but there are situations when wisdom and discernment are called for, and when compassion without, I want to say, so, if the heart is compassion and the mind is discernment, we need both. So being too much in the heart without being discerning can lead us into sticky situations sometimes. And with that, we'll pull your cards, Pile 2, and see what messages your ancestral line wants to communicate to you. Let's turn to the tarot. And as I'm shuffling, you can connect in with your ancestral line. Wow, that's feeling very Garuda Suparna already. I do love it when the cards just jump out. It does feel aligned. like that. So we're definitely getting some swords energy here, which is what you would expect for a significator card that is referring to discernment. The swords are the suit of the mind, the air, the head. And that can have positive effects, as we see in the Garuda Suparna card, or perhaps less positive effects, as perhaps we see in these two. These are different aspects of the negatives of swords. Excuse me. We'll stop there, I think. Speaking of mind. So we've got the Emperor here. The Emperor refers to power, protection, sovereignty. He is the king of the earthly realms. He is one of the very few characters in tarot who is wearing armor. Most of the court cards are not wearing armor, but he's ready to protect his realm and do what's necessary. He's sort of I'm seeing these goats and thinking that there's a bit of Capricorn energy in this, or sort of a Saturnian figure, in which case he'd be a master of setting boundaries and ensuring that what he has rulership over is protected and can continue to thrive under his eye. And so it may be that there's something in your life, either you're looking at calling this in, or perhaps you already have a position of authority or leadership in some area of your life, and you're looking to get some guidance about that, perhaps. Stability, power, aid, protection, a great person, conviction, reason. So more of the sort of Garuda Suparna mind energies, I would say, with this card. And this card would be the quite complete opposite of the stability of the Emperor. So this is the Tower. These folks are falling from the tower. There's been a lightning strike. There's a fire. You can see fire coming from the windows. The crown is falling off the roof. And it really seems like everything has shifted in a negative way, and certainly irrevocably. And so the tower was, I believe it was the first card I ever pulled in tarot when I was 14 years old, and that was a rough one to pull as one's initiation into tarot. And I lived in fear of it until recently, when I looked into, the Tower card, like the Death card, like even, the Devil, I would say, can refer to, maybe not the Devil, I think I'll edit that part out. So the Tower card can refer to the sudden, the Tower can mean sudden unexpected changes, reversals in a situation. It can also refer to, when things sort of come to a head and a new beginning is afoot. So, after these folks are ejected from the tower and their lives are never to be the same again, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all is lost, or that they don't end up in a good position after that. In the deck that I learned of the tower, it referred to avarice. And so the idea was that wealth went into the tower and it never came out again. And so, the tower sort of represented the energies of accumulation without flow. And so by having that struck down, there's an opening that can allow for flow. And so maybe the Emperor is a little too stable. Maybe there needs to be a little bit of an opening happening here in order to allow for flow. The Nine of Swords is the card of worry. The French word inquiétude just came into my brain. The sleeper here is awoken in her bed and is actually in this card she's not gendered, but as I've read her she's female. But of course any of these can refer to any person of any gender. But sticking with the pronouns that I have learned this card in relation to for now, she's woken up in her bed and she's unable to sleep. So she's got the swords up here in the air realm, and they're, it's sort of all the worries that are keeping her awake. There's no actual, physical disruption here. She's just, I don't want to say she's just, but she is experiencing perhaps terrible dreams or nightmares, or just worrying herself awake and unable to get back to sleep. Imagining, the worst of situations, or remembering past trauma perhaps, and just not able to get the rest that would probably help to dispel some of those energies. Over here we've got the Five of Swords, and the Five of Swords, this man's looking quite smug and contented, happy with himself. He's holding all the swords except for the ones on the ground. And the ones on the ground look to have been abandoned by these two folks, one of whom is sort of over there crying, one's walking away, and this guy thinks he's won the fight, but he's perhaps, this is the card of stalemate. It's hard to say that there has been a winner here. It's questionable what he has won, so it might be an ego win at the expense of a soul loss, would be my take on this card. And so it might be that there is some energy of, worrying about stability or prosperity or protection. There could be fears of a tower type episode occurring, and there might be some involvement with other people, a sort of, ego desire to win at all costs, but not quite realizing just how high those costs are and how isolating the position is, how, everyone is sort of isolated in this card. He's got his swords, but he has no other humans. And so it might be that through the course of worrying about preserving stability, things have sort of been pushed to a point where others are alienated, or there's a risk of that, perhaps. But as with all things, the wheel will turn again, and so if there's a progression from the tower through sleepless nights to a stalemate situation, then eventually that wheel will turn again, and if it's down here now, then it's going to go up here, and if it's up here now, it'll go down here, and the cycle will begin again. Let's pull some some interpretive cards for these. You get maybe more of a sense of what's going on here. What is it that pile 2's ancestral line wants them to know right now? In absolutely contrasting energies. Wow, it's a clean sweep. Let me put this guy on top. Wow, that's quite a shift here. So with respect to the Emperor, the modifying card is the Lovers, and these lovers are, there's some Christian iconography of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden with an angel. This angel has ears like Hathor, or has, some, maybe it's not even intentional, but maybe that's part of the wreath. I see an ear there, so perhaps this is meant to be part of the wreath, but to me that looks like a clear nod to Hathor energies. And Hathor is the goddess that Isis derives from, actually, and she was a goddess of fertility and pleasure and music and dance. And you can see the trajectory from Hathor to Venus eventually by way of Isis. And she was also quick to anger. There's a story of, if you want to look into it, Ra and Hathor and beer would be the terms to Google. And so anyway, these folks are in their sort of joyful innocence and, you know, just enjoying the pleasures of life without any thought as to, you know, why that would ever need to change, or, you know, of any blissfully unaware of anything beyond their pleasure garden. And so, connected to the Emperor, it might be that the Emperor has created this stability, and that's allowed these lovers to flourish. So within the container created by the Emperor, there's the freedom to engage in camaraderie, be together, be contented, and just, you know, be innocently blissful. What happens to Adam and Eve? Well, they have a bit of a fall. They, you know, you can see the lovers here. The lovers can also refer to a choice that needs to be made. So an awareness that perhaps things are unbalanced, and that, you know, now where there was one energy, now there are two, and so some rebalancing needs to occur. And so possibly there's a choice that leads to this the tower energies. And so there is definitely a sense that these two people are now the ones falling out of the tower, and so maybe they need that shift in their relationship. It's unclear whether they are still together after they fall out of the tower, or if they seem to be falling in different directions down into a precipice of possibly ice or sharp stone. But then here we've got, you know, two people again united. These four wands can refer to a marriage ceremony, a celebration, community gathering, success, prosperity. And so after this fall, there seems to be some kind of, as I was saying before, this might be what needs to happen to create the openness that can lead to this situation. And so I'm challenged to read the diagonals here. So, but it may be that, you know, it's almost like there's two different stories happening here. And so this might be the external events. So there might be this huge shift that leads to some kind of prosperity and success and togetherness, but there still might be this energy of being kept awake at night by worries. And yet somehow, I mean, there's a clear path from the lovers to the marriage to, you know, the legacy. So here's 10 cups and Queen and Knight of Cups here as well. So, you know, it's almost like there's a parallel story running here. Perhaps there's a choice between, you know, this path and this path. Or perhaps, you know, the turn of the wheel gets us over to this next storyline, timeline, if you will. But in any event, I intended these to be interpretive cards, so I'll continue reading them that way. So it might be that the fears are to do with preserving a legacy or creating a legacy, and it looks like, you know, the fears are just up here in the air and don't need to be heeded necessarily, although caution is always warranted to ensure that one creates what one intends to. But, you know, we've got our happy children dancing, the family, the 10 of Cups that suggests prosperity and wealth, and having accomplished what was most desired in this scenario. If there's some energy here of some kind of stalemate happening, it seems like the path through that stalemate might be an awareness of I'm looking for a link between these, and it's not coming to me, but maybe it comes to you maybe there's something about your situation that could go from the prosperity and legacy energies of this card to the stalemate of this one. You can have both these things at the same time. Certainly that is an energy that appears in relationships often and in families. But in any event, to go from here to here, the Queen of Cups is, she's got a foot in the water, she's got a foot on the land, she's right next to the water. It's almost indistinguishable in this picture. But her throne is on the land. She's grounded, and yet she's a master of the water. She is compassion, generosity, pleasure, joy, contentment, love. She is the personification of all of the values of the Suit of Cups. And I almost feel like she's more so, maybe this is some gendered stuff in my psyche that needs unpacking, but I almost feel like she's more so than the King of Cups, who I see as sort of compassion, but maybe that's a too broadly gendered value that I should question in myself. But in any event, it looks like the way out of the stalemate is to remember the connection, the heart connections with the others in this scenario, and put down the swords and pick up the cups, pick up the chalice, share the pleasures and the contentment with our loved ones. And the Queen of Cups is as far as you could get from this scenario. This person needs to put down the swords and go to the other people and go to the water and invoke that Queen of Cups energy. And perhaps that is what leads to the wheel turning. And then the Knight of Cups is like all of the knights. It's the action card of the suit, and so he's the one who wants to go forth and make love happen. He's got the wings of Mercury here, so he's on his armor. So he's got, he's fleet of foot. He's off onto the next venture. He brings messages. Those messages may have to do with everything we associate with the Suit of Cups. So again, compassion, empathy, love, pleasure, and those are the things that, like, he comes bearing good messages. So you might get some good news. There might be something, especially after the turn of that wheel, there might be some really good outcomes or news in your future. And so pile 2, I hope that serves. I hope there's some relatable messages in there for you, and that you go forth and take action in the Suit of Cups. And use your discernment. Discern whether you want this path or this path. And while you might need to be wary of heeding compassion or empathy instead of wisdom, sometimes I would say that wisdom is what can lead us to this path. And and to there needs to be protection and boundaries, but those boundaries can create a space for the boundaries of the garden, create the space for this love to happen. These boundaries create this celebration, this connection, leading to this prosperity. And the queen is perhaps love unbounded, but she does have her feet on the earth. So there is a sense of how the energy of the cups fit in with everything else that she might be watching over or have going on. So she's mastered the energies of the cups insofar as she is not merged into the water. She's not in the water, she's not a mermaid swimming through it. She has learned how to harness it. I mean, what is this little thing here? I guess those are meant to be angels on the side, but they kind of look like dark sickles to me. But I do see a cross of matter here and another one here. And there's some grapes up here. And so whatever she's got in her chalice, I assume that it's kind of looks like a robot, like a, you know, with... Anyway, in her robot chalice, she's got presumably some delectable water. And maybe the Knight of Cups is carrying that water forth into the world. Okay, pile 2, I hope that resonates and serves, and that is what I see your ancestors wanting to convey to you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know. Let me know how this sits for you. Bye. Hi, pile 3. Welcome to your reading. So today we are looking into what messages your ancestors want you to have right now, what's coming through your ancestral line. And card 3 is, I may mispronounce this, but Archon Barbello. Your biology and gender are creative and powerful means for you to express your soul path. Sometimes you may feel limited by gender constraints or stereotypes, but your spirit can never be restricted or controlled. Embrace the journey of what it feels like to be you in your own body. There is much benefit and healing to be gained through an embrace of your life journey, including the deeper experience of the absolute freedom of your spirit. Archon Barbello is an angel, goddess, divine mother, and sacred space. And I will add, since we started with the topic of gender, that this could be read as a non-female, non-binary energy. But I will continue to read the text as it is here. She is mysterious and powerful. She is the inviolable purity and truth of your being, the spiritual essence within you that is eternal and cannot be tainted or distorted. Her presence in a reading is a sign that any errors in judgment shall be corrected and any losses shall be restored. If you have been off your path or become disconnected from your real self, she is the innate understanding and power within your heart that pulls you back into authentic connection and true direction. Archon Barbello teaches the soul the mystery of how we can be in a male or female or non-binary body and yet have characteristics of both the masculine and feminine within us, or neither. She also helps us understand how our androgynous spiritual essence can embrace masculine and feminine energies to accomplish its higher purpose. This spiritual essence is beyond gender and is not altered by it in any way. When a connection to the androgyny of the spirit is experienced authentically, there is no rejection of the biology of the body, nor the gender-based experiences that the soul has chosen to fulfill its spiritual mission. We can enjoy our inner masculine and feminine energies and engage with them to create, celebrate, grow spiritually, and heal our soul. Every soul has a unique path, and yet every soul is here to find the way home to divine love and inner truth. The feminine energies in every soul empower our ability to embrace what is and find compassion. This allows for the mercy, forgiveness, and wisdom that start with what is and hold space for evolution into what can be. I'm just going to pause here. It goes on to masculine energies, and I will say that I did object to a sentence back there about not rejecting the biology of the body. And I do think there's some truth to being, for some people, they might experience androgyny of spirit and accept the materiality of their body's gender, and that might feel authentic for them. Obviously, for many people, that is not the case, and it can feel as if the gendering of the body is inauthentic relative to the androgyny of spirit that is experienced. And, you know, I'm sure there's many other words that could be put to what I'm trying to express, and if this is something that resonates with you, I'm sure you have your own words that are more articulate than anything I can say right now. I do think it's useful to think in terms of masculine and feminine energies, but I don't know that it's useful to put the terms masculine and feminine to them. However, most spiritual writing seems to refer back to those. I have not yet figured out how to, what other words to put to those energies that, because, you know, if we're talking about feminine energies, we're talking about what is traditionally associated with that term. We're talking about compassion, nurturing, you know, there's lots of facets of the so-called feminine energies that we could be referring to instead. We could be referring to those energies rather than, I mean, maybe yin and yang is a better way to refer to it, or in astrology, there's efforts to refer to negative and positive polarities. Some people have issues with that language because, you know, the feminine then gets associated with the inactive and the negative and the sort of, you know, the nothing, as opposed to the male being the active. You know, it's sort of the same, going off on a whole gender rant here, but, you know, it's the same as sperm is considered to be active and the egg is passive, when in fact the egg actually draws the sperm into it and the sperm is just kind of blindly swimming around. So, you know, even within our descriptions of science, that gender bias can inflect how we describe things in ways that are untruthful and not necessarily productive. In any event, rant aside, I'm going to continue. So, the feminine energies in every soul empower our ability to embrace what is and find compassion. And again, the material part of that sentence was, our soul can be empowered to embrace what is and find compassion. This allows for the mercy, forgiveness, and wisdom that start with what is and hold space for evolution into what can be. The masculine energies in every soul encourage exploration, development, and inquiry, stimulating us to question everything, which can lead to discernment and higher understanding and keep us strong. This ensures that negativities are banished from our personal space before they can undermine our personal healing and spiritual progress. Archon Barbello helps us fully experience the masculine and feminine principles as creative, interesting, and powerful methods of expression, rather than definitions of who we are. I feel like this card is right there, but maybe I should look into this archetype, because maybe the archetype is there, and there's just some wording in this definition, or in this description, that is just not quite. The value of the body, of gender and biology as ways for the soul to experience and express itself is complemented by the freedom that comes with understanding the spiritual part of you is entirely free from constructs of any kind. You can retreat to this sacred, pure, untouched place within when you need to replenish your reserves of wisdom and willpower for your life journey. Connecting with this part of you can remind you that whilst your life journey and your experiences are important and help you to grow, they do not determine who and what you are. You exist in the realm of Archon Barbello, the pure light of divine presence. Your spirit is always nestled beneath her radiant wings. Yet to shine that light in the world where it is most needed requires you to have a soul journey as a human being, in a physical body with biology and gender. If you have any concerns about this, or wish to bring healing to those who have such concerns, this oracle brings encouragement. Ask for help and healing from Divine Spirit, that all souls find truth in their journey, blessed with mercy, wisdom, grace, and compassion. It ended well. Okay, Archon Barbello. The other thing that I noticed about this card, in addition to being extremely beautiful and definitely a little bit of gender amorphism, I would say, or ambiguity, is that, you know, except for these breasts, I suppose, is that this heart is radiating. So she's radiating out from the heart. There's, not sure if you can see that clearly. Archon Barbello, you go over there. We've got our moss. It's funny because this might be, I don't remember if this is the one I'm thinking of, but there's one that's called Old Man's Beard. And so it's funny that I've paired it with this card, if indeed that is that particular type of moss. It falls from the trees. I think that is it. Okay, we are moving to tarot. So what messages does pile 3's ancestor what messages are coming to pile 3 from their ancestral line? What does the ancestral line of pile 3 want them to know right now? What does pile 3 need to know according to their ancestral line? What messages are burbling up from the deep for pile 3? Get one more card. Okay, so we're starting with, this is one of my favorite cards in the deck actually, so the prosperity of the Ten of Cups. Prosperity, success, legacy, joy, contentment, having, you know, look at those hands, they've accomplished everything that they've set out to do. And in this particular depiction of the card, they've done it in gendered bodies and they've produced offspring, and one assumes that that was via natural methods, and but we can extrapolate from there to the idea of coming together, joining energies, and creating some kind of legacy, or, you know, sharing gifts with the next generation, and doing that in a way that creates community and love and contentment in a, you know, a family unit, or a unit that is family to you, chosen family, a community of folks that are loving with each other, or are, it's about to say in bed with each other, that's not what I mean. I mean work together, involved with each other, with each other's daily lives, so some kind of kin. The Four of Wands can refer to celebration, community, coming together in a marriage ceremony or some other kind of happy occasion. And, you know, we've got grapes up here, everyone's sort of happy, holding up their wreaths and their laurels, I want to say. The Three of Cups, again, a card of togetherness. Got more grapes, more harvest, prosperity, and these are, you know, a group of friends who were, perhaps they're more than friends, who knows. Maybe they're a triad. I'm flipping all the tarot worms on its head today. Thanks, Archon Barbello. And so, you know, possibly there's some energy of threeness. This looks like two-ness, but also wider community. And then there's some energy of threeness, or just camaraderie, celebration. There's a lot of celebratory energy here. And then, of course, as with, you know, situations involving other people, celebrations, you know, passing things down, any sort of community organizing, there's a bit of a juggling act to be done. You know, always that wheel of fortune comes for us, and it is possible to find oneself having to, you know, especially in a situation where there might be loyalties in two directions, there's definitely a bit of juggling that has to be done, decisions to be made. This fine fellow is, you know, sort of looking a bit unstable, and much as these ships might capsize at any moment, and so there might be a message to inject some stability into a situation. The Emperor would sort of reinforce that. The Emperor is stability, power, dominion. I'm making him sound quite dark, but he's actually also sort of protection, prosperity. He's looking rather stern in this picture, but he's the king of the earthly realm. He's the energy of having accomplished much and having been able to ensure that it's protected. So let's get some, pull our second row of cards to get some interpretive meanings for these folks here. And there's our last two. Okay, so in respect of a situation of prosperity and plenty, contentment, we've got the Ace of Swords. So we've got the, this might be the ability to cut through illusions. And so interesting looking at this through the lens of a non-binary interpretation. The Ace of Swords might be, like what's going on underneath the surface? Do these two people just love each other and that's the end of the story, or are there secrets? not to complicate things. I mean, I think these cards are archetypes, and this is the archetype of prosperity and plenty and family and success. But even to achieve that success, there does need to be discernment. There needs to be the ability to sort of cut through things and get to the truth of matters, or to cut away what doesn't serve. And the Ace of Swords would be, it's just a very I think of it as one-pointed concentration. It's the ability to go into sort of pure discernment, and that can really serve. As you can see, it's got a crown with some more wreath energy around it, so suggesting that it's a very successful discernment that's happening here, and it might support the prosperity of the situation that we're asking about or looking into. And then with our celebration here, we've got the High Priestess, suggesting that so the High Priestess can mean, at a secular level, she can mean, if she's ever secular, it can refer to things that are not ready to be known. So in respect of this celebration, it's possible that there's some kind of energy of things not being fully revealed yet. It can sort of be, it's like a blank, in some ways it's like a blank. We don't know exactly what there is that isn't yet known about the celebration, but it will come out in its own divine timing. The High Priestess can also refer to the mysteries and connecting in again with, we've invited this connection in with the ancestral line and going deep down, and the High Priestess would most certainly be the energy of the keeper of that wisdom. So she's the one in the temple going back thousands of years. She's the ancestor who might be transmitting information to you now. Getting shivers as I said that. And she's also sort of a principle of spirituality, and connecting in with that part of yourself, the intuitive knowing part that knows well beyond anything rational. So if we've got the discernment of the mind and rationality here, we've also got the deep, deep core intuition here coming up through that Earth Star Chakra. And then, so again, we've got the celebration happening with the three maidens and their dance. And then down here we've got the 9 of Cups. So my brain does funny things with math, and so I'm immediately noticing that there's a 3 and a 9. So 3 3s are 9, reducing to a 1 and a 3. And so if this is the beginning of that celebratory energy, this is, sort of where it goes. And I don't mean to a man who looks just so smugly self-satisfied and pleased with himself. He's doing a little bit of man-spreading as well here. But you can extrapolate from that too. Instead of imagining this figure here, you could imagine 3 sets of people celebrating and enjoying their cups energy. And if it is the case that it reduces down to this one person enjoying 9 cups, then that energy might be becoming too much. It's 9 cups are obviously too much for anyone to drink, even if it's water in those cups. And so there'd be a call for sharing beyond, like you've got the success, and now you must ensure that that energy is shared amongst your kin, amongst your loved ones, or anyone who is in need. And so perhaps if there's a bit of hoarding happening here, then maybe that's what's setting this young lad askew and causing him to have to juggle a little bit with these pentacles, and assuming that he is able to balance out that juggling act and make the decision between alternatives, or otherwise just stabilize the ability to sort of switch between them. Then we have down here the 6 of Pentacles with giving, sharing. We go from the hoarding to the sharing. I don't know that this is not a traditional card of hoarding. That would be the 4 of Pentacles, but that is what I see in this Rider-Waite image. So extrapolating from the emotional effect that this card has on me to what's happening over here, it's as if this person has they've figured out that there's an imbalance, and they've corrected that imbalance, and now they're sharing of themselves, of their wealth, with those who need it. And you can see the scales are balanced here, so that balance has been struck. And then with the Emperor, it's funny, this is Justice down here, and I assume it's intended to be a male figure, but it very much could be the Empress to the Emperor's, the Empress to the Emperor, in the sense of being, sitting very identically on a throne with a lot of gray. And Justice would be, if this is the juggling act, then justice is what is achieved once those alms are shared with those who need them. And the protection and stability of the Emperor, if we want to have that stability and protection, then it is important not to be perceived to be amassing wealth and hoarding it, of course, because that creates an energy of instability. And so, seeing justice done is what will support stability. And so, any wrongs that need to be righted, perhaps there's a bit of a meditative energy happening here, and then a course correction here. And so it does seem like there's just an abundance of prosperity and joy, and then perhaps a bit of a message coming through to ensure that that's being directed to the areas that it needs to be, and all will be well, and that will stabilize these great energies up here. Okay, pile 3, so that's what I'm seeing here. See if we can connect this back to Archon Barbello and that radiating heart, the radiant heart. And if we we think back to that description, way back, such a long time back, the core message, my ramble aside, the core message was about the purity of the soul. And the soul in its purest essence is here for a purpose, and is ungendered, and is would not be attached to these 9 cups, right? There would be much more gratification soul-wise in moving over into this energy of sharing that wealth and dispersing it as needed. And perhaps there's something there about, to the extent that discernment is utilized and intuition is utilized, then that can bring about a situation of equity. Yeah. I like these two together. Okay, thank you for being here for this reading, and if any of this is resonating for you, please let me know in the comments. I'm so curious how these readings might play out for people, so if you have anything that you feel to share, please do so in the comments. Please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate the support, and I hope you found this useful. I hope it serves, and hopefully there's some resonance there for some of you with the Archon Barbello, and perhaps where that card ended, and hopefully my take on it as well. It's important to build community online as well as everywhere else, and establish safe spaces for each other so that we can enjoy our prosperity and celebration. Okay, thank you for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. Hi, Pile 3. I just wanted to add a little postscript because I feel like my ramblings at the beginning were perhaps unclear. I was trying to say that spiritual practices often, and spiritual literature and philosophy often make a lot out of masculine versus feminine, polarities, oppositions, and they describe, those words pick out certain energies, and I think those energies are useful to pick out, I think that it is better to pick out those energies by identifying them directly rather than referring to them as masculine energies or feminine energies. And people like to say, as if it's sort of like a solidarity with trans politics, that that everyone has masculine and feminine within them, but to put it that way still identifies those qualities as a binary in a way that I don't think is either accurate or useful. I think it actually can be harmful in a lot of cases, and so I don't know why we can't just refer to the qualities directly themselves. So if we're talking about the energies of compassion and caring and surrender, receptivity, then why don't we talk about the capacities of the qualities of compassion and caring and nurturing and surrender, and anything else that we want to put along with that. We don't need an umbrella term to pick out those qualities. Similarly, if we are referring to active energies, drive, ambition, moving things forward, protectiveness, protection, stability, I don't know. I mean, you can already see that stability and moving things forward are opposites. So even just broadly categorizing things under the umbrella terms masculine and feminine already is sort of, it has its self-undoing contained within it, if I may put it that way. And so I just wanted to be clear, because I feel like I sort of tried to express this perspective in the beginning of Pile 3 when I paused and added some comments, and I don't know that it was terribly clear where I was landing, because I was sort of questioning myself and sort of arguing from the devil's advocate to what I was saying at the same time as I was trying to say what I was saying. So I don't think it was super clear. And I just wanted to add this to make sure that just to clarify. So to my mind, if we're talking about the pure essence of our souls, even the term androgynous, even referring to, Archon Barbello as androgynous, or, in some kind of non-binary poster gal, poster person, I suppose, still feels like we're talking in the categories of gender. And I feel like the soul, and first of all, the soul would be sort of, pre-gender, but also pre every other, quality that we use to identify human bodies. And so when we talk about returning to restoring, ourselves, I guess, to the pure energies of our soul, then I think what those energies are, we can get clues from our natal charts. And again, I see absolutely no reason to gender the terminology around those things. There's planets for identifying the energies, and we really don't need to put any of those planets into masculine and feminine terms. And I do think that when we go back in the mythology even, we start to find that how the gods and goddesses were derived and eventually defined was different to how they were defined, centuries before, millennia before. And, as far back as we have a historical record, we know that, for example, the goddess of love was often the goddess of war across recorded history in many cultures, the cultures that we have recorded history for. And yet somehow those two sort of went, love went to Venus and war went to Mars later on, and they became sort of gendered qualities. Anyway, it's a whole rant, and I think I was trying to have the rant and also make space for the possibility that there are people for whom the body that they've ended up in this lifetime is perfectly adequate for their purposes, while also trying to express that there are people for whom that is not the case, and who, feel a disjunction between, in this case, we're in the context of spirituality, so we'll stick to the language of soul. So, a disjunction between where their soul aligns in those energies and where their body, not even necessarily their body aligns or lands, but where our culture typecasts their body would be my way of putting it. And, I will say that there are as many ways to express that as there are people who resonate with those energies. And so, take what serves, leave what doesn't. And I apologize if I was ambiguous or confusing. I feel like it almost sounded like I was reifying the gender binary when I was really trying to say not the opposite. I don't want to say that they're opposite perspectives, but I was trying to say that I found the text of the Archon Barbello card a wee bit transphobic, and so I didn't want to, use that word and name call in the midst of the reading. But here is a postscript. I will add that. And and so thank you for indulging my postscript. And I also, at the end of that reading, forgot to do the thing that I have pledged to now do in every reading, which is to ask you to like, subscribe, leave a comment, kind comments, please, as I am very new to this and just getting my sea legs and looking for the drive to continue, which, you know, it is, I wouldn't say it's a lot of work, but it is definitely work, and it's work on top of all the other parts of life that need attending to. And so I feel inspired to continue this with perhaps some new decks, and I want to sort of nurture and hold that space as protected for now. So if I have stirred up a hornet's nest, then please word yourself diplomatically in the comments, and thank you for engaging.